This episode of Spectre Sound Studios is brought to you by Pulsar Audio. Hey everybody, how's it going? So, got a brand new plugin to check out today from my friends over at Pulsar Audio. They hit me up last week or a couple weeks ago and said, Glenn, we got a new plugin coming out. Can you do a demo for us? And I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. And I've kind of been putting it off, and now I'm really regretting it because it sounds pretty wicked. I've got it across this entire mix here on a bunch of sources like drum room, bass guitar, overheads, and even the mix bus. And I'm going for like a retro 80s sound because this is kind of a retro style compressor. It's the 1178. It's kind of like the big brother to the 1176, maybe a little bit cleaner. And it's getting me results like this. Wow, that is super cool. Like I said, this is kind of like an 1176, but it's a stereo version and it's a little bit cleaner. Now, the reason you don't see these around very much is because they just don't make them anymore. And, you know, there's a million 1176 and LA2A clones out there and software emulations and whatnot, but this is the first time I've ever seen a software version of a 78. And I gotta say, I'm really liking this, especially on drum room. This thing is just super cool. Now, if we solo up my drum room here and just show what's going on here, I've got it set to the preset drum smash, one of my absolute favorite ideas ever. Turn it off. That's our drum room by itself. Throw in the drum room and it's just like, oh wow, that is so cool. Now, if you've ever used an 1176 or an emulation or anything like that, you're pretty familiar with all the controls, your input, your output, tack, release, and then you've got your ratio, everything from 4 to 20 to the coveted all-in button. So it can get pretty aggressive. And what's really cool is if you're a total audio boffin, which I am not, it's got mid, side, and left-right modes as well. So you can control the stereo width a little more. This is something I really need to investigate more. I have done very, very little mid-side recording in my time, and that's probably something I should play with a lot more because apparently it's much better for mono compatibility. This is definitely something to look into. Now, what's really cool about this, as opposed to, say, like a regular 1176, is you've got all these saturation modes down the side here. If we turn this off, it's just a straight compressor. Then we go through all the different saturation types. Check this out. I like that. It's just got that, you know, kind of pushing things just a little too far and adding a little bit of distortion into the sound. But this is what works great. This is what works great on a mix. And it's not something you're going to want to hear up front. You're going to want to hear it as part of a whole. Like if we mute out the stereo room, play the mix, and then then we'll pop the drum room back in. Take a listen what's going on here. Bring this up. Okay, that's just all kinds of fun. Now, I'm going to throw this on overheads next. I was using the old SSL channel strip on the overheads there. And what we're going to do is use this to keep things under control. And this is one of the real strengths of the Pulsar here, is it has a side chain, so it's not going to be completely affected by the entire spectrum. We can tune it, so only part of the signal triggers the compression algorithm. And then we've got a much more modern-looking compression graph here. And we can see exactly what the compressor is doing. And if we play around with the attack and release times, we can affect where this red line is going. So down below here is the audio signal, the peaks and the valleys, and here's how the compressor is affecting it. Now, if we slow down this attack, it's not nearly as aggressive. You speed it up, And it's almost a 90-degree attack there. And we slow down the release. Watch what happens here. And see this wave almost as the compressor releases. I'm really curious if the ratio button is going to do anything as well. Let's take a look here. Oh, wow, look at that. That definitely makes a bit of a change, doesn't it? So that's super cool because it gives a great visual representation of exactly what's going on. Now, generally when I'm doing overheads, I like to spank right on the snare signal itself. That way it's getting the snare drum out of the way and I can just kind of hear the cymbals, and I can use the close mics for the snare sound itself, or at least the bulk of it, and I'm not getting quite that high frequency splat going into the overheads. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up a side chain so I can send the snare signal right here over to the overheads, and I'm going to use that to trigger the Pulsar. We're going to set that up on 3 and 4, which is the sidechain receive tracks in Reaper. And we're going to go here is we're going to set up an external source. And then you'll see this just get a little bit cleaner. I'm going to pull back the release a little bit. We can see the sidechain just coming in here. If we go to internal, you can see some of the kick drum down here. But now, we're just getting the snare to trigger. That's super cool. And then we can just pull this sidechain EQ even there, and so all the bottom end coming off the snare isn't triggering either. It's just going to be the snap. So we can just target that area a little bit more precisely. And then we can go with a fast release here. Take the Pulsar out. You can hear that splat. Put this in, put a bit more input. Smack that snare down a little bit harder. One more time. That's getting a little aggressive, and I'm liking the sound of it. Let's drop that in the mix, see what happens here. Now, I'm hearing maybe a little too much distortion on those room mics, so maybe I got to pull that back just ever so slightly. Yeah, we still had the all ratio in, so let's back that off to about 12 to 1. So it's maybe not quite so obscene. Now, another thing we got it going on is a bass guitar, and I'm really liking the sound of this. Let's find out where the bass is. We've got that going on right here. And again, this is just based on their fast metal bass preset. We get this whole list of presets here for all kinds of things that I normally don't use, like piano. And looks like my good friend Moore Applebaum actually did some presets here as well. And we're going to try out this, we're going to try out a couple of his glue bus push. We're going to try out his preset on the mix here in a minute here. I'm going to show what that's all about. But bass guitar, I'm just using their bass guitar preset here. It's got a little bit of a dip, 128 hertz, like kind of right where some of the rumble is. And then it's got a bit of a peak. So it's going to hit those peaks a little bit harder. And wow, it's an all-in ratio. Look at that. We can see just how hard it's going here. Medium attack, fast release. Let's throw a little saturation in there, see what we get. Ooh. That can get pretty aggressive pretty quick. Wow, that is super cool. Let's try that one more time. I'm kind of liking the triode sound on that. Let's hear that again. That's even a little bit crazy. That's kind of getting into Motorhead territory there on Warm. Let's hear that. Let's hear that in the mix. Let's hear this outro part. I'm worried that might be jumping out just a little bit too hard there. We're going to try it here at the beginning of the mix again and just kind of loop it in and see what we get. We're going to try a couple different clipping modes here, see what happens. Right about there. The triode's pretty cool. Of course, what's really cool is you've got a mix control here, so you can dial in just how much compression you want. So you can actually like slam the crap out of it with the compressor and then just roll the mix back, so you can get kind of a little bit of both. I like the aggressive mode though. I'm gonna just bring the output up a bit. Wow, that's really cool. That actually might be my very favorite software compressor for bass guitar ever. That just sounds beautiful. Okay, next up, we've got this on the actual drum crush bus. This is where I send all my shell mics down to one fader, and I just hit it really hard with a compressor. Let's take that drum reverb off. Yeah, that gated 80s snare verb that everybody hates so much. I just thought it worked really well with this particular piece of music, just for that whole vintage 80s vibe. I really dig that. So here it is on the drum crush bus. And we're not going completely bananas with it. That's it by itself. We can hit it a little harder. That's kind of splatty there. Kind of liking that. And again, just playing with the different clipping modes here. Tape gets a little farty sounding. Liking the warm mode. And if we're to turn that off, that's without it. Now, just to show the power of the drum crush fader, let me show you what's going on here with the drum mix before and after, and just how much this 1178 is adding to the mix. So here's the drums by themselves. And we're going to bring in the 78 drum crush fader as well. We solo that up. It's just adding so much of an explosive sound. It's just absolutely fantastic. I love this effect. The effect is called parallel compression, where we've got a bit of compression going on all the shell mics, and then we hit everything super hard with a fader, and then we bring that up into the mix, and I call that the drum crush, and it just adds so much. Again, I'll show you guys the mix one more time, and we're just gonna bring this fader up. Just adds so much depth, and that's because of the 78. Triode's not bad. I kind of like it with warm there. And of course, this is based off their preset drum bus parallel comp. Absolutely stellar. I'm really, really liking the sound of this. I think this works exceptionally well. Now, another place you can use this is on your mix bus just before you hit, say, your mastering limiter, that kind of thing. And normally, this is where I will use an SSL compressor, because I use that on freaking everything. I've gone through several iterations, and last week I checked out the actual SSL version of the SSL compressor. Yeah, imagine that. And I was really in love with it until I pulled up the Pulsar, and it's like, holy crap, this is really great. Now, this is based off my very good friend Maor Applebaum's preset. Maor does a lot of major label mastering. I've got to work with him a couple of times. He's a really great guy and a super talented mastering engineer. If you have the budget, yeah, go to Maor. He's just freaking amazing. Anyway, let's show what's going on here with it in and out of the mix. It's kind of turned things down a little bit, but it's kind of setting everything together nice. I'm kind of curious what would happen if we started, throwing some of the clipping in here as well. Get the whole mix going. Like it a little cleaner there. So yeah, it's just nicely pushing things, but we're getting about 6 dBs of compression there, and I'm not really hearing it, which is great, because about the most I can push an SSL compressor is about 4 dBs, and I've got that set up as well here on the bus. Let's turn off the Pulsar, throw on the SSL, and see what we get. Now this, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the SSL native bus compressor. That is really close. If you were to put me in a blind test with that, I don't know if I could tell the two apart. So thanks to my very good friend Maor. Hey dude, thanks a lot. That's a killer preset, man. That works really well. Great job, dude. Like seriously. And there's some other mastering stuff around here. Like if we go to my we go thick compression here. That might be a little much. Wide sides up. He's got mid-side engaged there. That's pretty nuts. I think I'm just going to go back to the glue bus. That really, really does sound truly fantastic. Now, trying it out here on Snare, it's not going to be my first choice for this application, and that's absolutely fine. Not all compressors work on everything, especially a character compressor like this. I mean, in my experience, it's all right. Now, if I maybe open up that release a bit, isn't quite giving me the snap I'm looking for, and that's perfectly fine. But when it comes to drum rooms and overheads and that kind of thing, oh man, it really works great. Yeah, I've even got it on a mono drum room here. A little bit of that tape saturation going on. That's just fantastic. Really loving the sound of that. That is just all kinds of fun. Let's bring that up in the mix a bit more. Just adds so much more depth to what's going on with the close mics. I got to say, though, I think my absolute favorite application for this thing is as a bass compressor. And I think you're going to wind up hearing this on a whole lot more mixes because Crom's balls does that ever sound fantastic. Now I'm going to show you guys one more application for the Pulsar here, and that's a voiceover. I was messing around with this a little bit earlier today, and normally I'll do my voice into a distressor, and that's fine, but not everybody has one at home. This works pretty damn well for voiceover application. Check this out. These are devices that allow some people to dash from point A to point B very fast, while other people dash from point B to point A very fast. People living at point C, being a point directly in between, are often given to wonder what's so great about point A that so many people from point B are so keen to get there, and what's so great about point B that so many people from point A are so keen to get there. They often wish that people would just once and for all work out where the hell they wanted to be. So that works pretty well as well. Kind of adds a little bit of flavor, a little bit of character. You can get really aggressive there if you throw it in a tape saturation mode. You can definitely hear it working on a voice. Holy crap. But damn impressive nonetheless. So if you're going to be doing some voiceover work or some singing and whatnot, yeah, the 78 would probably do the trick as well. It's definitely a different beast than an 1176, I find. And well, I'd probably use an 1176 on a snare drum. I might not use the 78 on a snare, but I would definitely use the 78 on a drum room and even a full mix, where I would definitely never ever use a 76 on a full mix. Now you can get the 1178 over at pulsar.audio, and it's going for 89 euros, and I did the conversion. That's about $108 US. It's definitely a unique sounding compressor. I don't think anyone's ever quite done anything like this, especially with the dual displays here and the fact that it's so easy to dial in the sidechain. I've never seen a sidechain EQ that looks like this. That's super cool. And even the modern compression style interface is definitely a nice blend of old and new styles, and it has tons of character. I think the 4 different clipping modes is just a super nice added bonus, and I can't wait to use this on more mixes. Now, if you go over to pulsar.audio, you can grab yourself a 14-day trial for absolutely free. Check out the 1178, try it on a few of your own mixes and see how you like it. It's definitely worth taking a look at. I've got links for everything in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.